If you're an artist, you probably found yourself wondering, how do people find artists to publish in magazines or invite them to podcasts or even exhibitions? Well, as a curator, I'm about to spill all my secrets and tell you some of the ways that I discovered artists to publish, to interview, and even to collect in 2025, and I'm probably going to do something similar in 2026. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kat. I'm an artist and founder of Create Magazine, and for the past decade, I love featuring fellow artists, connecting them with curators, galleries, opportunities, and I am proud to say that we have partnered with art fairs such as Moniker, such as Superfine, Affordable Art Fair, and Art Miami. We also love to work with other galleries. We partner with other organizations, podcasts, magazines, and occasionally get invited to jury shows. And so I am here to tell you about how we discover new talent so you can put yourself out there in all the right places and get some media features, exhibitions, and more. First things first, I want to say that during COVID, a lot of my discoveries were, of course, done online. Everyone was stuck at home, and so we were all scrolling Instagram and finding artists that way. That was a super common way for me to get new work on our Instagram, on our website, blog, and of course, in our magazines. And for those of you who don't know Create Magazine, we have been publishing artists since 2013, technically. I started, and I have a little backstory early on this YouTube channel about the beginning of my magazine. And at the time it was called Fresh Paint, and it was a very humble publication that was only about 50 pages long. Over time, I rebranded and Create Magazine was born, and it was a broader theme where we feature installation, fiber art, photography, collage, sculpture, and creative entrepreneurs working in the arts, and so much more. I digress. How do we find talent? How do you get in front of the right curators, podcasters, writers, and more? Well, we can talk about this for a long time, but I'm going to give you some examples of ways that I've actually found new artists that I haven't heard of before that ended up getting published, or we ended up exhibiting their work with PXP and inviting them to participate in our in-person shows. Well, for Create Magazine, we have something called open calls or juried opportunities. And a juried opportunity is essentially a competition. Now, this can be a little controversial because there is a fee to apply. And the reason why there's a fee is so that we can pay our curators, designers, and writers to make these publications possible. And what this allows is for people from all around the world to submit to the magazine and get chosen by a curator, a gallery, or an independent juror that we invite for each issue. And we do try to keep our jurors different because we want a diverse view. We want different perspectives, different tastes. We don't want to get stuck in what we like because we know what we like, and we of course feature those artists as well. And so we find a lot of artists through our open calls. And while it is competitive and it's not guaranteed that you'll get in, that's actually something that I started doing as an artist early on in my career. And I specifically, if you're a new artist, recommend starting with local juried shows because there's less competition and you can get some more lines on your resume that way. But as you progress, you may want to challenge yourself to apply to global opportunities, international publications such as Create, and there's a ton others. There's, of course, if you're an American citizen, New American Paintings, and there are tons of indie magazines that may also accept submissions for free. And there are websites that you can find open calls that are both free and paid, such as NYFA.org, College Art Association, Art Jobs, and so much more. I'll link them in the show notes for you to explore. And of course, if you have a local arts council where you live, they may also have opportunities for exhibitions and publications. But, so we do find a lot of artists through these juried opportunities where other curators select the work, and I always discover incredible talent that I would never on my own come across, which is, I think, the value, right? It's the value of someone putting themselves out there in front of a gallery or curator's eyes that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily come across in the real life. So that is one way that we find artists, and really, I've been doing this for over 10 years, and it's been an amazing thing to see people land gallery shows, people connecting with buyers, people getting published in our other friends' publications, and eventually growing their career exhibiting last year. One of our cover artists for our women's issue exhibited at Untitled. So whether you agree with juried opportunities or not, there is merit to them, and there have been many success cases, especially from our community, but it also takes effort. It's not like just because you get published in a magazine that's going to do anything for your career. It's still your job to share it, to promote it, to shout it from the rooftops, tell your collectors, friends, and family all about it. So ultimately, the responsibility will always fall back to us artists. Okay, number 2 ways that I have been finding new artists, especially in 2025 going into 2026, is on Substack. I love this app. I personally absolutely adore scrolling Substack. To me, it's a much more peaceful, it supports my mental health. There's a lot more creative and intellectual content on there. Plus, you get to curate your feed based on your interests. So of course, for me, it's always been art and illustration. So I see so many artists I've never seen in my life. And I also discover artists through curators that share their favorite artists. One of my favorite Substack was actually on the podcast, The Art Forecast with Tatum Dooley. So I recommend you check it out and follow some incredible creators on there, whether they're an artist, a curator, or a maker. In fact, for our issue 54, our 9-year anniversary edition, I interviewed an artist who does beautiful landscape embroidery in a really unique way, and she is someone I literally scrolled by on Substack and ended up saving her work and then reaching out to her a few months later. So that's another way. Number 3, here on YouTube, I have found so many amazing artists, thinkers, writers, creators on YouTube. And one of our recent podcast episodes included Uncomfy, Tammy, and you can listen to that episode and hear all about Tammy's story and her beautiful clay characters that she creates out of polymer clay. She also has coloring books and plushies, but I would never have come across her work if it wasn't for YouTube. And in fact, there was another couple, they're both creators. Their YouTube channel is It's a Charming Life, and they are, Jonas is an artist, and he makes these beautiful illustrations. He also does a lot of pumpkin carving during Halloween. And I came across their work because I was feeling really isolated during COVID, and I was craving something cozy. I was feeling a little bit down, and their channel is very cottagecore, very cozy, but also very creative. So that is another way that I find artists. Now, I understand that YouTube is a lot of work. I made a personal commitment to be on here and show up and share with you guys, but it can be a little bit of a barrier to entry. And one solution to that I'll share with you is I've seen a few of my artist friends, shout out to Sari Shrike, she goes by Not Sorry Art, actually just share in the shorts section. So the same way you would upload a reel to Instagram or TikTok, you can upload a short reel to YouTube if you don't want to do a whole full-blown video. So that is another way. All right, the next way that I have discovered artists that I have shared or published in some way and collected was through in-person events. Yes, in March of 2025, I finally left my cave and I traveled to San Francisco to Superfine art fair. Shout out to Superfine for always supporting us, and I absolutely adore discovering new talent at their fairs. And so I actually got to meet a few artists that are part of my community, the Create Collective, and greet them in person. And I actually came home with quite a few purchases, believe it or not. And I ended up interviewing these artists on the podcast. Ingrid Wells and Jennifer Pert both ended up on the podcast because I had a really meaningful conversation with them. That's not to say that there's so many more artists that I actually really want to feature from that fair. And so I know that art fairs can be a little bit of a budgeting situation. So if you're just starting out and you don't have a big budget to rent a booth, that's okay. You can do a local pop-up, you can do a local gallery show, you can work with local businesses or a gallery that's willing to host you, and at least start making some connections locally. One of my first features that I received when I graduated from art school was a local newspaper, and that was because I had an emerging artist wall at one of the galleries in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and that newspaper ended up interviewing me. So that's one way to do it, right? By being in person and letting people know that you have an event. So even though it feels like everything is saturated and sometimes it does feel a little bit hopeless, like no one's gonna write about us or no one's going to share our art because there's so much noise out there, there's so many creators out there. I want to assure you that is not true. As someone who both puts myself out there as an artist and as a curator that works with Create Magazine and other organizations, I know that I'm always looking out for new talent to feature. And specifically, I love talking with people or writing about people's work that have a story, that have meaning behind their work. So our job as artists is to always share those interesting elements to make sure that we make the writer's job easy or the curator's job easy. And so that they can just show up, grab your pictures, and be able to say something meaningful and special about what you do and support you, and of course support their own publications or project as well, right? It's a two-way street. I hope this was helpful. Check out our classes at Create You. We have actually a class on how to get published and featured by media outlets. So go to createyou.co and check it out. And as always, if you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, feel free to email me at info@createmagazine.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.